Welcome to episode 590 of the Barcelona podcast, brought to you by the Blue Wire Podcast Network. I'm Nate Hilton, and yes, there is a match review for Barcelona against Almeria, because yes, I have to complete something fully. That's just how my brain is wired, like these season match reviews. So with this one, and now two more remaining, I'm almost there. And I always want to thank my patrons for supporting that, at this point, I guess a bad habit, and everybody else, at least, for following along wherever you get your podcasts or by subscribing on YouTube. All right, let's dive in with just 3 match reviews remaining. The 5 headlines from Barcelona's 2-0 win over Almeria. Headline 1 is Xavi drama overshadows. Unfortunately, some pretty in-the-know journalists reported that the idea of Xavi continuing on after now this season has been called back into question, and we're undoing all of the things that we just did 2 weeks ago and all the things that we had done back when he first announced that he was leaving. And apparently the row comes from some match results not going great, but that was already happening. He decided to come back after El Clasico and PSG, but it seems like Laporta is backing Xavi, and there's some other members of the board and high-ranking officials where I don't want to call it a mutiny, but where that revolt for Xavi's continuation has happened, and now they're attempting to convince Laporta, potentially considering not having Xavi stick around, especially after yesterday he made some comments in the pre-match presser about financial issues and maybe not getting certain things done, which, when your manager does admit that, while it is honest, it does make things a bit more difficult to conduct business, because if other teams know that you don't have enough funds, and I've done this a million times, it's not about revenue, but simply about FFP, but if you have players at least that you want to sell, regardless of revenue and profit and all that stuff, when we're just talking about Barcelona to bring other players in to fit them in the FFP, other teams know that they're going to have to take a loss on certain players, so that means that they're going to start negotiations lower than what those players are probably valued at. And by Xavi admitting all of that publicly, I think board members are, in this case, actually kind of rightfully frustrated about that, but it's not like Xavi's revealing some insane piece of information. I feel like the board members maybe feel like they were undermined a little bit, and it's an ego thing, of course, as I mentioned many times with the Catalan board and those in the know who've been around Barcelona for generations and their families. It feels like a birthright that they should be important people at the club. It winds up being a whole lot of egos. That's unfortunate. But let's refocus to this match for a second, because this drama, I felt like, overshadowed even the energy on the field for Barcelona. There were some changes, at least, that I could be excited about. Hector Fort was starting. Now, Sergio Roberto as the defensive midfielder. I wasn't necessarily excited about that, but it was something to watch, at least. I don't know. Ter Stegen also putting himself in the history books. He is the second all-time in goalkeeper appearances for the club, surpassing Zubizarreta, and still a ways behind Victor Valdez, but it tells you, well, just how many matches that this team plays in the 21st century as opposed to decades and decades and decades ago. But it does tell you how long now Ter Stegen's been around, and in just 10 seasons, playing as many times in between the sticks as he did. Last year was the only time Almeria have ever beaten Barcelona, last in the table. So coming into this match, Barcelona should have been a foregone conclusion that they won. Almeria, unlike last season when they were able to stay up in the Liga, they've already shipped the most goals in the Liga. They're already getting relegated, just 2 wins from 35 matches, and it would have been an absolute abject embarrassment if Barcelona found a way, even on the road, to drop any points against this team. Headline 2, Fermín and Fort getting into the action here, expecting from Almeria a low block, which they didn't really even do that well. Defensively, they are a Segunda Division side easily, and that meant Barcelona could just kind of stick to the game plan, attacking in a 3-2-5 with Hector Fort pushing way high on the left and Ferran Torres tucking inside to create multiple runners through the center channels, including having a late runner who wound up being the man of the match. So in theory, offensively at least, Barcelona did follow the game plan, and it worked to good effect against a team, as I said, if you watch the tape, they were going to be the easiest team, I think, this season to do this against. 3rd minute, first shot of the game, not enough power from Lewandowski, but it was a good sequence, starting with Fort on the left, worked it around, then through the middle from Pedri to Torres, and then feeding Lamine Yamal early. Bruno Lunga is probably a Segunda level left back, but even if it feels like a simple day at the office, it's still a physical, human, big-bodied adult man that you have to go against if you're Lamine Yamal, so I don't understand why he was starting today, but if he is playing, then of course they're going to play through him, and that's what they did. He also delivered the first corner with Gundogan out and Rafinha not starting, and it is such a minor thing, but it is always interesting to me what the corner and free kick hierarchy is as they go down that list as players are missing. It's just a little thing. Again, we're at the end of the season. What else am I watching? Barca very much on the front foot here. Maximiano, the goalkeeper, though, faking out Lewandowski and Torres on the press. Maybe his only highlight of the day, though, unfortunately for him. 14th minute, the 1-0. Really simple stuff. Almeria is, as I've been saying, not great, not even good. Fort's delivery with his right foot, making it an in-swinger, which I do like to see if you're going to play your fullbacks on the opposite side. That's what makes Cancelo's in-swinging crosses so dangerous as well. It means that whoever gets ahead on it, there's usually more redirection and less having to use all those muscles in your neck to completely change the trajectory of a ball that's out-swinging, like you will see from Balde's crosses in with his left foot on that side. So an in-swinging ball for Fermin Lopez, who stayed onside, got behind the center back, and got his head on it at the back post with Maximiano stuck on his line. Still, Fermin Lopez had to score it. He had to get enough on it, put it in the back of the net, and obviously with his second goal, which I'll cover in a second. 10 goals, though, in total for Fermin Lopez in his debut season with the first team. Being named also today to the big Euro preliminary list for Spain, that is quite the accomplishment for a player who just turned 21 a few days ago, and feels like a broken record, but I want people to remember this. Even if next season doesn't work out for him, or 2 seasons from now, this has been a flash in the pan, magnificent season, and just a wonder of an ascent, because he was never a top prospect in the academy. Maybe above average prospect, but he was never one of the top players. And when I look at the players that he played alongside in the academy, for him to kind of be the attacking one that broke out in this way, it is truly remarkable here. Hector Fort also with 3 assists in about 300 minutes for the first team, and that is just about perfect for what I would have expected from him at the start of this season. 3 assists, great for his first team debut season, and then even just getting 300 minutes this year is a good sign. I know it's because a lot of injuries and Barcelona were missing squad depth, but I feel like he's been brought along rather slowly. He is still so young and so much work left to do for him to improve, so I think it's a really promising future. No surprises there. Headline 3, nothing to lose. Unfortunately, you had to watch that first half because Almeria didn't look like they had anything to lose. And they didn't, obviously already relegated, but the only thing really to play for, the commentary team on ESPN Plus, which included the former Atletico Madrid player in Mario Suarez, mentioned that Almeria players are fighting for their individual careers in the first division. So even though the team itself, at least half of them maybe won't be in the team next year, but if they're not good enough, maybe they'll have to stick around. But more than likely, Almeria will sell them off so that they can survive financially in the Segunda Division. And maybe high at the top of that list is Leo Baptistao, who got a chance in transition in the 22nd minute. And it's not like Barcelona weren't leaving space. Almeria were targeting the gap between Fort and Inigo Martinez, and they found it a ton of times. Lozano let a long shot off a few minutes later, just trying to pepper Ter Stegen and keep him awake. 27th minute, Almeria won a corner, and still no resistance from Barcelona on the counter. Fermin Lopez, of course, pushing high, and Sergio Roberto frequently getting caught defending a zone without a man in it. And even when he was kind of man-to-man, it's not that Sergio Roberto had a poor match. It's just if you have Pedri and Roberto and Fermin Lopez as your midfield, and then you add to that Cubarsí, who is a good defender, but alongside Inigo Martinez, also a good defender, but I wouldn't consider either of them ball winners. So you wind up having an 11 with no natural ball winner. Somebody who, in transition, just knows how to put their body in between a player and the ball, or is willing to get a tactical yellow. Even Sergio Roberto was late on a few tackles where he missed the man completely. It would have been a yellow if he had made contact. And then a minute later, though, this game being wide open, Lamine Yamal hits the post. 32nd minute, it looked like Ter Stegen made a great save, but Almeria was offside. Good job by Inigo Martinez here to step, but Almeria, again, was getting forward with no resistance. I think the other part of this, too, is that Barcelona certainly, not to say they're not playing for anything, they're playing to win a match. Not necessarily to dominate their opponent, but to find a way to win against the worst team in the Liga, especially after they got that goal. If anything, I felt like that hurt them because then their energy lowered a little bit because they felt like, all right, I guess 1-0 still gets the job done, especially if I don't get hurt. 42nd minute, and Barba hit the post. Barca playing a high line. Koundé didn't jump for the offside, and I've been praising his focus over the last few weeks. This is a lack of focus and not his best game either. And Barba was easily played onto the ball from a reasonable angle. It beat Ter Stegen, and Barca were fortunate. It was still 1-0 at that point. 45+1, Fermin Lopez forced a save with a long shot in transition, continuing to find himself in the right spots. And then the 47th minute, a giveaway in midfield. Terrible defending by Barca here. Pedri nutmegged, Roberto sliding in, Koundé chasing, but somehow Lozano missed with Ter Stegen going the wrong way. Instead of giving Almeria a goal at this point, I just felt like Barca should have maybe been docked their goal at that point as punishment for what I felt like they were giving up to Almeria in that first half and then beginning the second as well, with Almeria then eventually making some subs in the 60th minute that wound up supporting Barcelona. Headline 4, 10 for Fermin. I already mentioned it. 10 goals on the season for Fermin Lopez, because up to that point in the second half, to the second goal, I don't really have anything else to talk about. A whole lot of nothing until the goal. 67th minute, Barca passing it around, Fort to Roberto. Roberto with the run with the ball into space, and the wide open pass to Fermin Lopez, who hit it perfectly as he arrived into the box under Lewandowski and hit it one time. Now 10 goals for Fermin Lopez, and for a player that has been able to do this against higher level competition as well, even against the likes of Real Madrid arriving late in the box, he was a player that was giving energy, giving it all he had in this one, and certainly has a desire to continue to stand out and earn his place in the squad next season. And with those 10 goals, it would be a real surprise to see him actually get called up for the Euros over players like Mikel Merino or other Spanish midfielders, but hey, crazier things have happened. And just being positive for a second here, because yes, the negative fact is that Xavi is overdoing it with Lamine Yamal. Playing him 90 in this game is almost malpractice, and I totally agree with that. Lamine Yamal has played 354 out of a possible 360 minutes since El Clasico. That is almost a disaster if he even stubs his toe, because you want to protect him, and you know he's going to be playing at the Euros as well, likely even being a starter because of the options that Spain has on their right wing. So this is not great that he played another 90 today with Rafinha on the bench, and I know that Barça Athletic are fighting for promotion spots after losing to Deportivo La Coruña for the automatic promotion spot, so they're fighting at, so that's why Mark Yu is down with them and is likely going to be with them for the rest of the season until they potentially win promotion or they don't in the playoffs. But the Lamine Yamal stuff and protecting him, that's nothing new to you. Though being positive for a second here, it is a good sign too that Hector Fort and Fermin Lopez were two of the most impactful players in this match, because it really has been an unbelievable season for La Masia. When I get a little more time, and everybody knows, especially at the end of this season, not say the matches aren't as important, but I'm really short on time, and by short on time, I mean I don't have the time to go through and compare all the different La Masia players and season and minutes and compare that to other teams around world football this season and in past seasons. So I don't have time to do that, but just feels like La Masia and the Academy are having a great season in the first team. Then headline 5, chances for everybody. Lots of subs at Barcelona. We got to see all of the bit players. 68th minute, Roberto and Lewandowski off for Christensen and João Felix. I don't know why Xavi's trying to save João Felix, but maybe the board has already told him, hey, Jorge Mendes says if you want to keep Guy Fernandez and renew his contract, and Lamine Yamal, you want that to be an easier contract negotiation, then my client, João Felix, we want him back on loan next season again, and Barcelona might just have to capitulate to that, and maybe Xavi is saying, if I got to be stuck with him next season, here's some minutes, João Felix, have some fun, score a goal, hopefully. 73rd minute then, Vitor Roque and Cancelo on for Ferran Torres and Fort, and Vitor Roque got to play through the middle, which is nice to see, hoping he got something here. João Felix got a shot off, but he was sloppy in the other minutes. He's out of form. He's out of confidence. So I'm hoping over the summer, likely with Portugal, he could get some confidence back if he's going to be sent back to Barcelona. I really don't know with João Felix moving forward. This second half of the season has been, I mean, if he was an actual Barcelona player, it would be a disaster, but because he's only on loan, it just kind of has been a net loss. 83rd minute, Pedri off for Ordo Romeu. And Barca, I thought Pedri, once again, like we also see that, kind of summed up this performance. Barca was pretty sloppy with the ball through a lot of the match, Koundé especially, and Pedri, who both I thought had good moments and bad moments, but I really wouldn't consider a good showing for Pedri. I thought he was much better against Real Sociedad, and I think when we are splitting hairs, that's fair. I think the 2-0 against Real Sociedad was a bit better than this 2-0 against Almeria. And then to close it out, Vitor Roque did get a shot off from a tight angle, and that was about the only other thing to report. Vitor Roque, him making a few minutes here, says nothing about his future at all in the club, so I'm not going to read too much into it in any way. Patreons, thank you so much for continuing to support me, as always. I know my outro is giving more energy than I think Barcelona had throughout this match, but yes, Patreons, you give me energy throughout the season, so for as low as $3, you get these shows without the ad over on Patreon, the Barcelona Podcast, and then Twitter, Instagram, Barcelona Podcast, Hilton D13 for me, close Facebook group, Discord, and of course a good rating on the podcast apps, subscribing to the YouTube channel, huge help as well, regardless of what part of the season we're in. Most importantly though, thanks so much for listening to the show. Until next time, we'll talk to you soon. Barca Barca.